Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? You're all doing very, very well. Now you best put your fingers in your ears because, and now the screaming starts. Amicus, 1973. Not one of their portmanteau movies, of which we've discussed a lot of those before. This is one of their few standalone features where it's just one story from beginning to end. And it's based on a 1970 novel called Fengriffen, written by David Case. And David Case wasn't a very good author, I'm afraid to say. I have one of his books right here called Wolf Tracks. It's a Wolfman story. You think I'd love it, but it's not very good at all. And by all accounts, the actual novel this is based on, Fengriffen, is a jumbled, muddled mess of the occult, supernatural stuff, ghosts, curses, paranoia, and it just doesn't hold too well together. And yet Amicus, under Milton Subotsky and Max J. Rosenberg, saw potential in it. Yes, we can make a movie out of this. So they did. And it was originally going to be called Fengriffen, then they were going to call it Bride of Fengriffen, and then the title changed to And Now the Screaming Starts. And the reason why that title came in, they actually wanted to use Holden Ellison's title, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which is a great sci-fi story. And Ellison's agent happened to be around at the time and got wind of this idea. He said, no, you can't do that. We've got that title. So that's how And Now the Screaming Starts came about. Yeah, and the title doesn't make a lot of sense. More like And Now the Screaming Never Ends, because our star in the movie, Stephanie Beacham, doesn't stop screaming at all. So we're in 1795, right? And it's the beginning of the Regency period. And Roy Ward Baker, a stalwart, of course, for Hammer and Amicus, directs this with real sort of over-ambitious, overreaching, overarching, designs on trying to wrestle something out of this very meagre story. There's not much meat on the bones of this story. So he directs the hell out of it. My God, there's toings and froings and backwards and forwards and this and that and visions and da 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 da. And we've got one of those living severed hands again. Yeah, like we saw in Dr. Terra's House of Horrors. Some would say, and in fact, I think I fell for this myself. Some would say that it's the same severed hand, the same prop, the same thing that they created for it. For Dr. Terra's House of Horrors, the Christopher Lee story, and Michael Gough story. But the hand does not look the same at all. We know Subotsky loved it, he used it several times over, but I don't think it's the same hand. I think it's just the same idea. The movement is different, and it's definitely been revamped if it is the same thing. They've definitely cleaned it up and made it a much better effect out of it. Anyway, so what is the story? Oh God. It's a gothic melodrama, ripe with curses and visions and spectres and ghosts and violence. And the young bride-to-be, Catherine, arrives at Fengriffen Manor, Fengriffen House, Fengriffen Hall, Fengriffen Castle, the great big bloody building anyway, with her fiancé, Ian Ogilvey, playing Charles Fengriffen. And they're very much in love. But little does she know there's a massive curse upon the Fengriffen estate and the men folk there, or rather the women folk that they bring in, which you'll find out over the course of this movie. Basically, back in the day, our boy Ian Ogilvy's great-granddad or uncle or whoever it was, played by Herbert was a bit of a lad, a bit of a lecherous old git, and much like Hammer would do, the whole sort of aristocracy are all evil, like in Plague of the Zombies, Curse of the Werewolf, and Hound of the Baskervilles especially. They hold pageants for all the local revellers. And Herbert Lom's character, Herbert Lom, the great Herbert Lom, who was in the previous movie Amicus did, Asylum, alongside two other stars of this movie as well, which we'll come on to. And he has his wicked way with the woodsman's new bride, virginal new bride. He gets in there first. Yeah, that old law. He reenacts it. And when Silas the woodcutter fights back, he gets his hand chopped off for doing so. How dare you? How dare you fight back? Know your place. And he takes us to stump of a tree and put his hand out there, and with an axe, lop his hand off, like, and it's quite a grisly sequence. So he utters a curse upon the Fengriffen men that should they ever bring another virgin bride in, it's going to be, the child will be cursed. Well, we'll come on to all this anyway. And Herbert Lom's character, we learn, sort of saw the error of his ways and like, oh God, I'm sorry what I did there. And also this curse is bloody frightening. So he bestows land for Silas and his descendants on the estate of Fengriffen. You can live there forever, free of charge, but you still are woodsman, don't forget that. And so Silas has Silas Jr. Anyway, played by the same guy. Played by Jeffrey Baildon. No, Jeffrey, what's his name? Hang on a sec. Not Jeffrey Baildon, but you'll see why I said that. He's played by Jeffrey Whitehead, who plays Silas the woodsman. But Jeffrey Whitehead looks identical to Jeffrey Baildon, who of course played the Crowman and Catweasel, and is also in Asylum the year before. But the two look very, very similar. But Silas and the Silas menfolk have a rather large birthmark on the side of their face. A very big red splodge all here, like that. And not very pleasant to look at, but you know, they seem to get by okay. They're handy with a chopper, put it that way. Oh, look what I've found. Cheers, you all. So anyway, Ian Ogilvey's got Stephanie Beacham there. And no sooner has he introduced her to the house, and they go up and down the stairs and look at all the portraits of all his ancestors. That's great uncle so-and-so, that's blah, 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 and that's... And then you keep seeing Herbert Lom's portrait, and don't we know it? I said about Roy Ward Baker over-directing this. Every time you see it, the camera does a juddering dum 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 into the face, and you hear clock chimes and a weird bit on the soundtrack, and like she's aghast at this face, and it keeps on happening. Yeah, the mandolin starts playing, and playing Douglas Gambley's rather baroque, lush score for this movie. And but every time you see it, in the first 5 minutes, about 10 times, she keeps getting drawn back to it. Dun dun dun, clock chimes, zoom in. Oh, what about that face? Oh, it looks nothing like Herbert Lom. It's a really, really bad picture. It looks nothing like him. But Ian Ogilvey said, oh, this is so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And you might like this one, and it's a picture of himself. This one's been recently done, and it's Ian Ogilvey there. And, but what, she keeps getting drawn back to this, and she starts screaming because a great shock moment in the first 2 to 3 minutes of the movie, as she looks at this portrait, a bloodied hand punches through the face at her. Of course, it's just a vision, and she screams and shrieks, and he comes back, what happened? What did you see? What happened? What happened? And she won't say what it is. It's just like, oh, she swoons. They then cut to the wedding night. They see off all the guests, they're all in their finery, and Ian Ogilvey has to carry her up the stairs. There's a great line early on where she investigates a suit of armour. I think she looks inside the visor and she goes, it's a wonderful house, you know. Is it haunted? Is there a ghost? And he says like, oh, we've got everything here. Headless horseman, horseless headsman, horseless headsman. It's great. I should say the screenplay the adaptation is done by is it Roger Marshall? I think it is. Roger Marshall does it, yeah. From David Case's original novel. So there's some good lines in it like that. But anyway, he carries her up the stairs and she's in a massive, one of these old Regency style wedding dresses, and it's big and they keep getting the take wrong. So apparently it took about 14 takes for Ian Ogilvey to go up these several flights of stairs carrying it, and he was in a right shit state by the end of it. No good for the wedding night at all. And with it being back in those days, he takes her to her room, carries her over the threshold into her room. Let you get ready, I'll go to my room and I'll get myself ready. As he does this, we see dinkety dinkety dink, bloody severed hand. Suddenly, we're only a few minutes into the movie, folks. You've seen like bloody hand come through the portrait, and now we've got a severed hand on the march, on the prowl, on the upper landing. So well, anyway, look, let's cut to the chase. She's in there getting all excited. She's pinching her cheeks to get that ruddy sort of thing to the women's cheekbones. And the window, this lovely stained glass window opens. And the door behind it, the bedroom door, the key locks the door, and suddenly she's raped. Although you really wouldn't know this from the visuals themselves, something clearly happens to her, and she's raped by a ghost. Now, we've seen this sort of thing done far better in The Entity with Barbara Hershey, of course, several years later, but also in Legend of Hell House, Pamela Franklin gets raped by a ghost in that, and far more effective. The way it's shot here, you know what's happened, but you really don't see anything at all. And some people would be thinking, what did I just see there? Ian Ogilvey hears her screaming, can't get in the door. Yeah, he can't get in the door. He does a shoulder barge. Come on, man. You be the saint. He should be kicking the door down. He runs miles through this mansion house to find an axe on the wall. An axe. Ian Ogilvey with an axe. Last time we saw him was in Witchfinder General for Michael Reeves. He's hacking up Vincent Price, the Witchfinder General himself, Matthew Hopkins. Ian Ogilvey starred in the three of Michael Reeves, the doomed but cult figure Michael Reeves. 3 of his movies, The She-Creature and The Sorceress with Boris Karloff, and Witchfinder General, or The Conqueror Worm, as some people probably still refer to it. Classic B-movies and a genuine masterpiece in Witchfinder. And then he's in this. Now, he picks up an axe and he chops the door down, gets in there, and of course the spirit's gone now, but it's done the deed. So now, the whole story now will just be, she'll keep seeing the hand, she'll keep seeing a spectre of a guy with a hand hacked off, so a bloodied stump, with like bedraggled hair, a birthmark on his dead cadaverous face, and 2 eyeballs which have been shot out from his head. So 2 bloody, empty sockets with blood streaming down the face. In fact, it looks just like Peter Cushing did in Tales from the Crypt, playing Arthur Grimsdyke, who comes back from the grave with the same sort of hair, the same cadaverish face, and the same blackened, hollow eye sockets. Very similar sort of look. Only a bit gorier, obviously. But you keep seeing this vision will come through the window, it'll come through paintings, it'll just be there, be out in the grounds outside, when she looks out the bedroom window. So she becomes more and more paranoid and more haunted. But everyone around her seems to know why this might be. But they aren't telling her. Oh no, they're not. And lots of other stuff happens. You've got a maid there called Mrs. Luke, played by Rosalie Crutchley. Cheers, y'all. And after she's asked everyone, this is Catherine, Stephanie Beacham, after she's asked everyone, including a lawyer and a doctor and everybody, no one's willing to give any details away. Finally, Mrs. Luke goes, oh, I know something. And she scurries downstairs and goes to one of the libraries there, moves some books aside and finds a hidden tome. And that hidden tome is, I wrote this down, Malleus Maleficarum, which means Hammer of Witches, and it's written in 1486. So it's all spells and the occult and curses and stuff like that. So the details of this curse are obviously going to be in that book. So what happens next is a bravura set piece, which again, Roy Ward Baker really went to town on, perhaps unnecessarily so, in a protracted death scene. She goes back through the house, another one of those stained glass windows opens. It's a great scene, by the way. And suddenly a wind strikes up in the house. Things are fluttering everywhere. Her bonnet's getting blown asunder. The paintings are rattling and bouncing off the walls. The chandeliers are swinging this way and that. She goes up one flight of stairs, another flight of stairs, gets scared by an eyeless phantom coming out of the paintings, goes back down again, tries the door, it doesn't open, goes back up again, back up again, more stairs, more wind, more chandeliers crashing, paintings rattling around. And then finally, in a really hokey bit of visual effects, she sees the phantom coming towards her, and then a phantom hand goes whoa, right in front of her face, and then as a phantom hand, it strangles her, and then we get this really, I'll be honest, really naff stunt where suddenly Rosalie Crutchley, who's a fair bit older, transforms into a much younger stunt woman, who then has a really laborious slow motion fall down the stairs to her death, a neck-breaking death at the bottom of the stairs. And the book tumbles off somewhere into oblivion again, and then she's dead. Obviously, Stephanie Beacham's character is getting more and more paranoid all the time. Ian Ogilvey is getting a bit twitchy as well, like. And Catherine has seen Silas. She's seen a guy outside in the grounds with a big birthmark on his face, sort of a strange blonde bowl head. And I've seen this man. Who is he? Well, that'll be Silas, the woodsman. He lives on the land, you know. His family's been working for us for generations. So she goes out to see him because this phantom with no hand looks just like him. So she goes out there to his little cottage, and of course he's got his hands in a big tub of water. He's washing his hands. Conveniently, both hands are submerged. And she's like, she barges in there. Who are you? I'm Silas, milady. You know, I'm the woodsman here. You know, she goes, show me your hands. Why do you want to see my hands, milady? Show me them now. Well, which one do you want to see? Both of them. So slowly he withdraws the left hand. He goes, I'm right-handed, milady. You want to see this one as well? And of course, that's the hand that we know is missing from the spectre. And the hand comes up, and it's there. He's got two hands. And he actually says, like, 8 fingers, 2 thumbs, front, back. Normal hands, milady. And that's kind of it. Like, a strange little sequence, but, you know, it's still nicely eerie at the same time. So she's finding out that this guy lives on the land, but what the hell? Who is this spectre then? There's a curious little bit as well, which kind of throwaway, but it's a nice, neat little thing. They have 2 Rottweiler dogs. When you come out the back of the house, you know, these 2 dogs are sort of chained up either side of the stone steps. And in one early sequence, she comes out and she throws food for one of them, who greedily wolfs it down. But she's got nothing for the other dog, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, maybe next time." And she walks off. Well, that dog remembers this. You see it staring after her, like. And in a later sequence, she'll walk out again and walk past the 2 dogs. But this one that didn't get fed strains at the leash, breaks free, and in a very Moonraker-ish moment, charges after her in the meadowland and takes her down, like. And as it's ripping at her, nothing really happens. Silas comes up and saves the day because he can't let anything happen to Milady now, can he? So he beats the dog and kicks it away and all that, and saves her. It was a nice little touch, that. But in the meantime, we have a doctor played by Patrick Magee, who was in Asylum previously as well. And he's wonderful. This was the era of him playing really freakishly bizarre characters in many, many movies, Clockwork Orange in particular, but so many other movies as well. And he's great. It's a bit of a throwaway sort of role in this. Yeah, because he will offer nothing. He knows what the curse is, but he won't tell Stephanie Beacham about it. And obviously Ian Ogilvey's like, well, can you just look after her because she's pregnant? Because of course she's pregnant now. Should have said that, shouldn't I? The ghost got her pregnant. And this is what we're going to find out about this curse. But Magee can't really help at all. Like, so he sends for someone a bit better because Beth's going to be fine. She's in perfect physical health, but maybe it's her mind. And I can't really deal with that. I deal with bodies, not with the mind itself. But I know a man who can. Who might that be then? It's old Peter Cushing, isn't it? Peter Cushing comes in as Dr. Pope, who this doctor, Dr. Whittle, knows Dr. Pope and summons him. So, what? Everything's going to be all right now, isn't it? It's Peter Cushing here. It's Van Helsing. We're going to be okay now, aren't we? Aren't we? Peter Cushing now appears with a rather frightful KLEQ wig. He wore a lot of wigs and hair pieces throughout his career. And in this and the forthcoming for Hammer, Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, he wears pretty much the same hairpiece. But in fact, I think the one in Monster from Hell looks worse. It's even bigger and more frumpy-ish. But it's still a wig nonetheless. But props Peter is here to save the day. Not. So he's like, well, checks her over and he's like, well, paranoia and phantoms, it's not, unusual for a woman who's in her condition to start having fears and reservations and seeing things, manifestations, Apparently, all pregnant women get these things. So But he does a bit of investigative work. He meets Silas as well. He goes out there because while he's staying there, because he's done a few checks on his patient, and Ian Ogilvey, Charles says like, I want you to stay until the birth, make sure everything goes smoothly. He said, oh, okay, I don't mind, because he's loving the house. We're going to talk more about the house and the sets and the location work on this in a bit. Let's just get through the story, because there's not a great deal of story. Despite so many things happening all the time, there's not actually much story to it. Again, over direction. Just really adding a bit of flavour, a bit of spice in every scene he possibly can is Mr. Baker. And anyway, there's a lawyer as well. Lawyer Maitland, Lawyer Mortimer, Lawyer MacDonald, Lawyer something anyway, played by, I've got it here, Guy Rolfe. Now, obviously, Ian Ogilvey has something to do with him. So they look, I want the will to be sorted out for her and all this, and the lawyer knows the case as well. And he said, okay, I'll come to the house at 8 o'clock sharp tonight. And then we cut to a sequence of him walking through riding down a country lane to Fengriffen Manor. And the horse doesn't like something in the air, starts whinnying and rearing up and all that. What's wrong with you? Come on, onward, lad. And then happens again, and he gets thrown off the horse. And as he's dazed and gets to his feet, we see somebody with an axe. Well, we just see an axe in someone's hand. We don't see that somebody at all. And then they advance towards him. Oh, well, what might happen then? He's looking at the old grandfather clock. Oh, he's late. He's never late. I must go and find him. Maybe something's happened to him. So again, we've got all a day for night shooting, as you'd expect in Hammer movies and Amicus movies. It's just de rigueur. He rides out there and he finds, there he is, the lawyer, who's been sliced up with an axe. Don't go thinking gore for this particular sequence. I think there's a slice on his head, but it's not nasty at all. So he's dead. We've lost a maid, Rosalie Crutchley, Mrs. Luke. We've lost the lawyer. We lose Catherine's aunt, Edith, comes to stay because she's, I've got to pamper you and look after you. You're pregnant now, and like all these horrible concerns you've got. And in a rather ludicrous scene, she again comes up the stairs, and the hand appears, and I think the hand appears in front of it again like a phantom vision, and then suddenly the hand is actually at her throat. So she's getting strangled. And yet somehow she makes it to the bedroom door of Catherine. Catherine's there doing her hair or whatever. Knock on the door, and she just ignores it at first. Knock again. She goes, who is it? And then, curious, maybe I better go and answer the door then. So she does, opens the door, and, and there's her aunt. I don't know who plays her. It's just like, it's like, dying on the spot. And in a really naff but pure 70s moment, we have a really shocking image of Stephanie Beacham doing one of them, screaming again. And the camera sort of zooms in. It's almost like a freeze frame. It's very Falcon's Crest. It's very TV movie style. And you're like, oh God. So she passes out again. Poor Stephanie Beacham passes out and screams a lot in this movie. And she even does one of those swooning moments where she goes cross-eyed. I can't do it. And goes out of shot. Roy Ward Baker directed her in an episode of The Saint with Roger Moore. Connection there. He liked her so much, he brought her on board for this movie. So I think it's her first actual, biggest movie that she'd done anyway to date. And she's very good in it. It's a bit OTT. Everything's very melodramatic with it, but she does have some really good moments, and she pulls it off pretty well. And she's not very unpleasant to look at either. Where's it going with that? Of course, Ian Ogilvey, playing a husband in this, will go on to play the Saint in the Return of the Saint TV show. So, connections. I said about the title, didn't I? Stephanie Beacham and Ian Ogilvey, whilst making this movie, were convinced they were making a film entitled Fengriffen. So when he went to the premiere with all the other cast and crew and director, and the title came up, and now the screaming starts, they were like, what's this? Are we in the wrong theatre? Never heard of this movie. We didn't make this film. And that's this ludicrous title. Very generic and rather naff, isn't it? Anyway, so things progress. Peter Cushing as Dr. Pope, like, I've had enough of all this. I'm going to see my friend Dr. Whittle. You know more than you were letting on. Tell me, what is this curse? Everyone knows something about this family. What do you know? And I think Patrick Magee is about to tell him. So yes, there's the history of the family. Yes. What we've seen, but Peter Cushing and Patrick Magee haven't seen, is that bloody hand is on the window ledge. It's just sitting there, waiting, like a devilish spider. And as he walks to the window, about to confess or tell him all the information about the curse and all this, suddenly he goes, and Peter Cushing stands there for a ridiculous amount of time, watching as this guy, with his back to him, is convulsing and clearly, obviously, in a lot of pain and in discomfort and could be dying. And then finally, he falls over and he's dead. He's been strangled. But Peter Cushing takes so long to get to him. Like, he just stands there in shock. What'd be happening? You know, wobbling his wig. And of course, he opens it, all the collars and that, and fine. There's no pulse there. Now, if you think about it, who's to say that he didn't do it? You know, because obviously he's been strangled there by the hand, this phantom hand, which can come and go as it pleases. Maybe the hand did the axe murder as well, because we don't know. We just see a hand holding the handle of the axe. It could be the hand again. It's a phantom, it's physical, it does things, but it can transport itself around the place, around the land. Anyway. So now we've lost Patrick Magee, so a doctor's gone, a lawyer's gone, the aunt's gone, a maid has gone. You know, the body count's rising. So Peter Cushing, he's seen out the window, he's seen Silas out the window as well, waiting patiently in the grounds. Even the rain pissing down rain, he stands there looking at the bedroom window of Catherine, because he's got a vested interest in this birth, obviously. So Peter Cushing pays him a visit, and this is not a very good scene. It's got a good line in it, but it's a really stupid scene. He barges in there, and there's Silas, and Dr. Pope. And he goes, "You know my name," says Peter Cushing. "Oh yes, I know you, and you better look after my lady, because if anything happens to that baby, I'll kill you." And then the scene ends, and then we've got Peter Cushing back talking to Ian Ogilvey. You think you wouldn't just stand there and take that off this guy, this woodsman, would you? You just wouldn't do that. I'm Peter Cushing, don't you know? So he goes back and says, like, who was that man? Well, that'll be Silas, the woodsman. Oh, I should say, when the lawyer's body's found, Ian Ogilvey calls the authorities, who then storm round to see Silas, and they're blaming him. You know, come on, Silas, why'd you do it? He says, "Oh, I didn't do it. You know, well, around here, you're the only person with an axe." "I wasn't there that night, not with my axe. I went." You know, no, they can't prove the damn thing. But so he's not actually threatened Peter Cushing, who then storms back. "Who was that man?" "Oh, that's Silas. Didn't you find out who he was when you were right there? You were talking to him. You called round at his house. You didn't get any more information out of him at all." It's a weird, goes nowhere sequence. So then we get Ian Ogilvey. All right, I'll tell you the tale. So that thing I told you at the very start, Herbert Lom plays his uncle, his great uncle, 50 years before anyway, who lived in that house. And we get told the house was built 300 years before. And if the house is fantastic, it really is. It's a character in its own right. People always say that about these sort of movies, like the house, the set is a character in its own right. And in this, it genuinely is. It acts better than most of them. No, everyone acts pretty well, but the house, is fascinating. You just want more and more scenes in it. So even when the plot is meandering and getting really, muddled and strangled itself, you just love observing the house, the exterior, and of course the interiors. The exterior of the house is Oakley Court, near Bray Village. Bray Village, you say, Kilt-Man? Yes, Bray Village. Of course, the home of Hammer. And Amicus used it a few times. And this house, Oakley Court, was Frankenfurter's gaff in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it's been other movies as well. And it's clever the way they film this place, because where it sits, you've got a main road down its main drive. You've got a big, busy main road there, which you don't see in the movie, of course. And the Thames is behind it. It's right on the banks of the Thames. So even though in the film you think this place has got loads and loads of grounds, this great big estate, it has nothing at all. Honestly, Kilt-Man has a bigger garden than this place. It's a lovely, lovely, massive, huge house. Very, I'm not sure what area it was built in, but I think it's great. Ian Ogilvey himself said, like, it's a really horrible house from the exterior. I hate it. But I think it's a wonderful place. It's a proper old folly, but it looks amazing. But the interiors are all done at Shepperton Studios, and my God, the interiors are so sumptuous, so spacious. The camera, who's the cameraman? Dennis Coop does the camera work, cinematography, and the camera goes up and down the stairs and around corridors and different aisles and rooms, and the sets are opulent and beautiful, and they look lived in. It has a real sense of genuine character and, like, sort of fetid air from these decadent ancestors of Ian Ogilvey, all these portraits. But it's like Hogwarts as well, because it seems to transform itself all the time. You go up the main flight of stairs, and then you go onto one of but the landing goes all the way around, a huge look down space. Oh God, you can tell I'm not an architect, can't you? But it's got like walkways, so it feels like very Hogwartsian, and all these paintings are there. The camera prowls along these landings, goes around corners, comes back again, and you can look down into the the big sumptuous what do you call it, parlour room, main entranceway. I don't know what you call these things. But it's a beautiful set, it really is. And anyway, so he gets told about Herbert Long's debauchery. And in this sequence, which again is very Hammer style, he's at the head of the table, the big trestle table, and all the local pissheads are all in there giving it loads. They're all playing instruments and singing and chanting. But he's offering, it's a competition, who can drink a yard of ale in the quickest time. One guy does it in 15 seconds, the other guy does it in 12 seconds. But they're all getting pissed, and they're all, they're rabble rousers. And this is where he comes up with the idea, listen, Silas the Woodsman got married today. Yeah, he's got a very buxom young wench there for his bride. I wonder if he's took her yet. Let's go and pay him a visit. So this mob descend on the cottage, and, Amicus didn't normally do this sort of thing. Like rape scenes or graphic violence, really, but this film does seem to do it. Although it wimps out on the rape of Catherine, of Stephanie Beacham's character, it kind of wimps out on that. Maybe that's deliberate to keep the whole thing foggy. What really happened there, I don't know. But in this, they didn't show nudity a lot, but you get nudity in this sequence. This poor girl, Silas's wife. So this is Silas Senior. She's in the tub and he's washing her back, and this bunch of bastards all break in there. My lord, what can I do for you? His accent changed there a little bit. It's like, oh, have you had her yet? Have you taken her? No, sir. What business is that of yours? Anyway, they rape her, and Silas picks up an axe and goes for him. I think he cuts his arm. But then he gets beaten and dragged out, and this wood stump, and they put his arm on it, and this bastard puts his foot on Silas's arm. His arm's there like that, yeah. And Herbert Long comes up, whap, chops the hand off. They put it in a bucket of water and all that. Like, I said, that'll be a lesson to you. You'll never cross me again, will you, Silas? And that's when Silas utters this curse, because it's a curious curse though. So, one of your kind brings it, one of your men brings home a virgin bride. Yeah, I'm gonna be there. The ghost of Silas will be there, and the baby will be mine, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. It's such a bizarre thing. We learn a bit more about the other previous descendants of Herbert Long's character. Like, I think the next one, you hear the Dies Irae there. Douglas Gambley score puts in the Dies Irae. Great, love that. The Devil's Tritone. I think one ancestor of Ian Ogilvy's comes home with, he marries a widow, so she's not a virgin. So anyway, the curse doesn't happen then, but it's going to happen for him and Catherine. Well, obviously it has happened. So anyway, Ian Ogilvy's terrified of all this. Silas, the new Silas, didn't get arrested, so he's still on the prowl, looking out for Catherine and the baby. So I'm trying to work out what happens next. Did I say I wasn't going to go through this scene by scene? I think I did say that, and I've done so anyway. I've missed tons out because there's a lot of waffle in it as well. But anyway, it's the night of the pregnancy and all that. She's going to give birth. The night of the birth, not the pregnancy. That lasts 9 months usually. And there's a new maid there and all that. And Ogilvy's like just going demented. He won't be up there, and you can hear the screaming going on. And obviously Peter Cushing is administering to her needs, the patient's needs. And then you hear like a baby crying. And outside you've got Silas prowling around in the gardens, watching and all this. And he runs upstairs and he meets the new younger maid. He says, "What is it? Is it a boy or a girl? You've got a son, sir. Is he all right? You've got a fine son, sir," she says, and scurries past. So he goes in there. Now, of course, the curse. Well, you've seen a spectre, haven't you, with a hand missing? Obviously, Silas Senior got his hand hacked off. He's cursing any woman that's going to give birth to a Fengriffen child, a Fengriffen boy. So he goes in there, and she's all like, oh, she's zonked out, and Peter Cushing is there, props Peter, watching his hands and looking very studious and concerned. Your child's over there. There's a cot, and he reaches down and looks into the cot. You don't see the baby at this stage, and peels down, looks at it, shiver revulsion, runs out. Oh, that's it, bang! Gets 2 pistols, goes off to Silas's cottage, confronts Silas in there, and Ogilvy in a fit of rage. He goes, your baby son, yeah, one of mine, isn't it? Kind of. He goes, you bastard. We hear the shots, and then Peter Cushing has gone after him. He hears the shots, so legs into the cottage. Although he's literally just right behind him, Ian Ogilvy's disappeared. And then Peter Cushing, and another little, it's not Peter Cushing's fault, it's Roy Ward Baker's fault. He's looking around like that, and then suddenly the body's right there. How could you possibly have not have seen the body right anyway? It's there, and it's lying on its side. He turns it over, and of course both eyeballs have been shot out. Which is curious, because you see Ian Ogilvy goes, bang, which would have took out one eye, and his head would have gone back. And then after a few seconds, another bang. Unless he's got over to the body and fired point blank. Anyway, it is what it is. But here's the thing for you folks. The ghost that Catherine's been seeing throughout the movie, and the phantom that's appeared in front of the maids as well, has got a bloodied stump, so hand's been missing, hand's been severed, and it's got 2 missing eyes. But Silas Senior only got the hand cut off. He didn't lose his eyes. Silas Junior, who's got 2 hands, loses his eyes at the end. So what's the ghost? She's seeing a combined ghost of the ghost of the past and a ghost of the future. That's what she's been seeing. Does that make any sense? It really doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. But that's how it is. So Peter Cushing then goes back, and I think it's now, there's a storm, that's how it hit. It's lashing down now. And there's a great, this will be Shepperton again, because it's not in the grounds of Oakley Court. There's not enough grounds to put it in there. There's a railing fenced in open air cemetery with the graves above ground, and you've got Ian Ogilvy's there with that axe again. It'll be, I've just realised, it's probably the axe of Silas, who's the woodsman. He's took his axe this time. Yeah, that'll be it. And you've got this sarcophagus, this big stone coffin of Herbert Lom's character, and Ian Ogilvy's going at it with this axe, smashing the concrete on the top of the stonework. And Peter Cushing comes up there, like, what are you doing, man? You're going insane, you're mad. What are you doing? And he gets nudged away. Peter Cushing comes back in and puts his hand on the edge of the sarcophagus. And it's a great little shot. So iconically, and ironically, the hand is there, and he comes down with the axe, and Peter Cushing his hand just gets moved just inside, poof, like that. And Ian Ogilvey with the axe just layers in to Peter Cushing, and it's a look of absolute rage and hatred. And in that shot, he looks just like Lewis Collins. Just the way I'm thinking, it looks just like Lewis Collins, with his hair all bedraggled in the rain, and that rage. Ian Ogilvy's never looked that angry before. He's had some angry scenes, but never like this. And Peter Cushing gets involved again, and then gets thrown aside. And as usual for Peter Cushing, he tends to be a bit more dynamic, a bit more action-packed than he needs to be. He hits the railings, and he rolls down the railings and falls against another grave. Really overplays this, but it's Peter Cushing being dynamic, and you gotta love it. And then he just kind of gives up, leave you to it. And he goes back to the gates of this sort of cemetery, this little tiny family plot. And he smashes open the lid of all that and drags out the skeleton and starts smashing the skeleton to bits. Boosh, 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 boosh. In reality, he cut his hand very badly because it was a surgical skeleton which was wired together and pinned together, and one of the pins went through his hand. So you see him he clearly in the moment, oh shit, but it's working for the scene. Bash, crash, smash, skull gets splintered everywhere. So Peter Cushing then goes back to Fengriffen House, and there's the baby and there's the mother, and I think he says to one of the staff, call the authorities, tell them they'll find Mr. Charles Fengriffen in the cemetery, and warn them he's dangerous, he's got an axe. So he's going to get arrested now, and he's killed Silas, hasn't he, for one thing. And then in a scene which is a bit of a cop-out, and it kind of reminds you of Rosemary's Baby a little bit. Peter Cushing passes the baby, the newborn baby, to Stephanie Beacham, and you can see it clearly only has like one hand, and it's got a birthmark on its face. Now, Stephanie Beacham and Roy Ward Baker both wanted this scene to play out differently, because she, obviously, like Rosemary in Rosemary's Baby, it's a small child and it's my baby, I'm going to have to look after it, and she kind of warms to it, and then the film just ends. But in reality, what both Stephanie Beacham and Roy Ward Baker wanted to do was have her go crazy and smash the baby against the wall. Can you imagine it? Well, they couldn't do it for one thing because, well, it was a baby, and the baby's real life mother was standing just off camera, making sure everything was going to be okay. So the ending is kind of anticlimactic, really. And Peter Cushing, who arrived to save the day, saved nothing. He's done, apart from deliver the baby, the demon child, he's done absolutely nothing to help anyone. His friend Patrick Magee gets killed right before his very eyes. Charles goes crazy and kills Silas, and he couldn't save Silas either. The baby is cursed, and he's delivered the baby. So Peter should have stayed at home, shouldn't you? Dr. Pope. Rubbish as a doctor, even worse as a pope, obviously. Cheers, you all. But the film just ends there. Folks, this is a big, sprawling, gothic melodrama. And if you're in the mood for that kind of thing, it really does work. The plot is stupid. This whole thing about the ghost that she sees, it's got the eyes blown out. Well, that hasn't even happened yet, so how could that be? Well, it's a great ghastly image, of course, and you keep seeing it leering at windows and coming out of paintings and floating in a sort of like an optical effect. The film feels very dated in that respect. The effects aren't brilliant. The sets are superb. That bloody hand, that pesky friggin' five-fingered fiend. It does that same thing in Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, where as it's walking on the floors or whatever, it goes, the fingers go up and then crawl, and then go up and then crawl. But the motorized mechanism which keeps it going is a lot better. Now, I haven't written down the guy's name who did this, I'm not sure if it's the same fellow who did the one in Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. It might be the same guy, it might not be, I can't remember. But in that film, there was a very clear seam down the side of the hand, which is very overtly seen in a couple of moments. There's no seam at all. And it definitely moves with far more animation, and the camera's on it for longer and it's going along the floor or along a window ledge or whatever. It's definitely doing a lot more. And but the actors all said that when it didn't work on set, you had to wait around for hours for it to be fixed and to do anything properly, you know, on command. And it was dead noisy. The internal mechanism, the motor, was so loud, it drowned out everything else. So it was a pain in the arse to work with. But Milton Subotsky loved his severed hands. Anyway, so there's a hodgepodge of stuff going on here. The whole the birthmark effect. I've seen people say that, oh, the birthmark looks terrible. When he screws up his face, you can see all the lines in it. Well, you would. It's just painted on his face. So if he screws his face up, there's going to be wrinkles. So it's going to wrinkle anyway, because it's part of his skin. That's how it's meant to be. So you can't critic that at all. As you can see, I've tried to do a facsimile there. He's got a birthmark. And the hair is a bit more extravagant on my version, I'll give you that. It's more sort of, well, it's more Renaissance, isn't it? You know, a lot fancier. But that house, as I said, is incredible. Every shot inside there is a work of art. The bit where the storm chases Mrs. Luke up the stairs and the paintings are all giving it loads. There's a naff payoff at the end. When she falls down the stairs as a younger stunt woman and breaks her neck, suddenly the storm abates, everything stops, but they just freeze the frame. The chandelier's been swinging like that, it just goes, whoop, and they freeze it, and you kind of, that's a bit dated, that, isn't it? And of course, this came out in '73. The year before, Amicus had done Asylum, which is a fabulous movie. Most of their films, with only a couple of exceptions, The Skull and I, Monster, which are again are full feature films, not portmanteau anthology movies. Most of their films are set in the present day, so whether it be the 60s or the 70s, you know, they'd be set in the present day. They didn't do very much in the way of gothic sort of period set stuff. And in the early 70s, they were getting people weren't watching films like that anymore. You'd had Rosemary's Baby, you'd had Night of the Living Dead, changing the face of horror completely. The year after, you were going to get The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So things were radically changing. So the modern day set, you know, real super shock movies. And this feels at least a decade out of time. It should be from the 50s or the 60s. It's that kind of thing. And Douglas Gambley's score. Gambley would score a lot of stuff for Amicus, including The Beast Must Die. The Beast Must Die, my favourite Amicus movie, of course. And he would do, what else would he do? I can't remember now. Loads. He did loads. He did Asylum just before this as well. Now his score in the film, and this will sound weird coming from me, who's a massive score aficionado and devotee. I love the score played separately from the movie. In the film, it is almost constant and it's overpowering, especially in those first scenes where she arrives at a Fengriffen Hall, manor, house, whatever it's called. The music just won't stop, and there's a lot of Mickey Mousing taking place. That bloody painting of Herbert Lom, it'll drive you mad. Play the drinking game. Each time you see that picture, the camera goes dun 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 into it, like, and you see his eyes blazing. Have a bevy. And good luck to you. You won't last another 10 minutes into the movie. You'll be on your back, pissed as a fart. But things like that are very, very dated. They were cliches back in the 50s, did that sort of thing. And to be doing them in 1973 was a little bit dodgy. The film was released on a double bill in America with something which I can't remember. And the film, I think, did reasonably well. It did okay. Amicus didn't lose on it, put it that way. They only went from strength to strength, Amicus. And but no one ever talks about this movie. It never gets referenced in any sort of people talk about all the portmanteau movies. Scream and Scream Again, which I've reviewed. In fact, of Amicus, I've reviewed of the feature film Scream and Scream Again Eye Monster. Oh, and now this. But and they did, of course, a couple of Doctor Who movies with Peter Cushing playing the Good Doctor, and a much more successful Doctor in those movies than he is in this frigging film. And he did those 3 Doug McClure movies as well for Edgar Rice Burroughs fantasies. So they did branch out and make a lot of other stuff as well, a lot of sci-fi and fantasy stuff as well as horror. But he did The Psychopath as well as a full feature-length movie as well. But by far their most acclaimed movies would be the anthology stuff, which is all inspired by Dead of Night, of course. And they are classics. But this hits a bit of a sweet spot, really. If you like your gothic chillers, your period melodramas, stormy nights in a big, ramshackle old house, a curse, lots of gowns and stateliness and, hairdos and ponytails, horses and carriages and stuff like that, manicured lawns and stonework and masonry, and, you're going to love this because you're right thrust into the thick of it all. The opening shot when she arrives in a horse and carriage there to Fengriffen Hall, you have, the title sequence comes on and you see Oakley Court, and they're clearly travelling down the Thames taking this shot, and you can see a bit of the water. It's a shame that he weren't able to incorporate that a bit more, because you've got the River Thames right there, but it doesn't play a part in the movie because they kind of make out you've got loads of grounds, you've got woods, you've got this bloody little cemetery there, got all this sort of acreage when the actual house itself doesn't at all. But they do film it pretty well. You still get the impression that this house has a lot of its own land when it has none at all, really. Stained glass windows, those staircases, those upper landings are just wonderful. Every room feels huge and real. The walls are solid, nothing wobbles at all. The doors are great big solid oak bloody wood. Everything is fantastically designed. The art production design is by a fella called Tony Curtis. No, not that one. But he loved the fact that he had the same name as Tony Curtis. He loved people getting mistaken and going like, no, he can't be called that. Is he really called that? He loved all this. Did a lot of great movie art production. And it really pays off here. That phrase I keep lamenting, handsomely mounted. Well, this film epitomises that, handsomely mounted. A rich, baroque symphonic score, fully orchestral, with lots of shimmery stuff and mandolins. Exotic sort of Renaissance and Regency period instrumentation takes place. And I like that. But in the film, it just gets very, very crowded, very overdone. And again, as I said, Roy Ward Baker, he was a great, jobbing, workman-like director. Bits of flourish here and there, but gets the job done. But with this, he could clearly see, look, we're not got a lot to work with here. So I'm just going to have to really, every single scene, I'm going to protract it. I'm going to do big, extensive camera work. I'm really going to belabor every little moment and expression. And I'm going to make everything bigger and boost it all. And that's what he does. So the cumulative effect of that, with the score being so overpowering, is that the film can feel a bit really stagey and a bit hokey and a bit sort of, oh God, gee heck. It's a bit much. A touch much, don't you think? But in the right frame of mind, it works a treat. I hadn't seen the film for many, many years until obviously watching it to review it this time. And the first time I watched it a couple of times actually, and I was like, oh, God, am I going to talk about this? I kind of really wasn't enjoying it. And I thought, I'm not going to give it the right bit of respect here. So I watched it a second time, and I really got under its kind of melodramatic spell, and I really kind of enjoyed it. I can't massively, say it's fantastic, because it isn't. But that's not the fault of the actors or the filmmakers. It's a fault of the story itself. The story is just a muddled mess. The ghost doesn't make any sense. The curse is so ridiculous. I'd like to see more of that book. I think Malleus Maleficarum. Preferred my mangled version. You do see the pages of that book at some point, and you see Stephanie Beacham's Catherine reads another book as well, which did I write down? Comus. And I thought, Comus? What's that about? Must have some kind of relevance. And it does, because Comus is a sort of, what is it now? The Greek god of festivity. indulgence and merrymaking, you know, and revelry and nocturnal dalliances. So that epitomises Herbert Lom's character, you know. Herbert Lom's great in it. It's just an extended cameo, really. There's some other people, notable people in this. Michael Elphick is in this. Boone himself. And I think it's his first ever role. I think. But we have Rocky Taylor, stuntman in The Spy Who Loved Me, and his dad, Larry Taylor. Both stuntmen, both actors. Larry Taylor was in Zulu, father and son. Now, they are both in this revelry scene with Herbert Lom and going to Silas's cottage. They're thugs, you know, the local ruffians. And I like this sort of this poking fun at the hedonistic debauchery of the aristocracy. Hammett would do this a lot. Amicus didn't do it a great deal, but they definitely revel in it here. And as I said, they don't show nudity or violence in a lot of their movies, but they do in that sequence because you see a fair bit of this poor girl. And, you know, they go for it. And obviously the hand lopping sequence, you know, it's not disturbing, it's hardly taboo breaking. By this stage in the 70s, we'd seen everything, you know, a good few years before. The 60s broke all the molds anyway. So this still seems very tame, even for, you know, for Amicus. But, and now the screaming starts. Fucking god-awful title. But it's great watching Ian Ogilvey, Stephanie Beacham. Beacham, yeah, the camera loves her, but the camera stays on it for far too long, just to make all these gurning faces and these screams, and it just goes on forever, really, really over-labouring it. But she has loads of great moments as well. And I really wish that she could have had the ending that she wanted, where she just picked the baby and just goes, fuck off with it. Like, imagine that. That would be a super shock conclusion. That would be so controversial, but it would have been wonderful, you know, at the same time. But it weren't to be. So, and now the screaming starts. You can take your fingers out your ears now. Oh, no, I'm still talking. Put them back in again. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's hokum. It's a gothic, colourful gothic melodrama. And I say Dennis Coop's photography is ravishing. It looks wonderful. I think the film was actually quite cheap to make. I think it was the most expensive one that Amicus had done so far. But all the actors said, like, the film wasn't that expensive to make, but it looks several million bucks on screen because of the opulence of those sets and that fabulous location work. It just looks really, really good. The day for night bits, again, by this stage in movies, Hollywood was never doing that. So why Amicus and Hammett still insisted on it? Peter Cushing is great. He can't save the day at all. And it's kind of like a thankless character, really, which is a shame because it's Peter Cushing. Patrick Magee doesn't get a lot to do. Jeffrey Whitehead is great as Silas. Great accent, great face, you know. Because you feel sorry for him, and yet clearly he's a bit of a murderous bastard. I'm assuming it's him that killed the lawyer. Although, you don't know that for a fact. You just don't know it. But he threatens Peter Cushing, you know. Yeah, look after that baby. Nothing better become of that baby, or I'll kill you. You know, whatever his threat is. But he, you know, it's not exactly ambivalent. So, if you're in the right mood, mate, and now the screaming starts, we'll fit the bill. Stormy night, you know, not much on telly. That's it. Get a bit of Amicus on the boil. So anyway, folks, there's not much more I can say about this. Normally that these are big epic reviews, but there's so little of genuine substance in this film, other than, you know, the ripe acting, the occasionally bravura set pieces, Ian Ogilvey smashing the stone coffin. That's a great sequence. That he's really going for it as well. You can see that the burning rage in his eyes, and obviously the staircase demise of Mrs. Luke is really OTT, but the whole build up to it is pretty damn good. So yeah, and that fucking hand. Folks, happy that we shall be Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, in this ever handsomely mounted in between time, please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic. I'm going to see you all later. Yeah. Amicus still kicks ass, but they do it in a friendlier way than Hammer ever did. Even with this, which is a bit more, there's rape and there's, you know, a bit of nudity and a severed hand and a bit of gore. Someone gets their eyeballs shot out. Even given those little hoary old staples, it's still kind of a cozy, quaint horror movie. It's not going to rattle anyone's cage too much, you know? So you're kind of safe with this one. Anyway, I'm out of here. Take it easy.